Will you join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll start out with reviewing the housekeeping items. Board, when speaking, please move close to your microphone to ensure you are heard clearly for the YouTube streaming. And I request that citizens speak to adjust the height and stand close to their microphone. There will be 2 opportunities for citizen comments. I will be requesting individuals stay within the 4 minutes in both citizen comment sections. I would appreciate everyone keeping their points concise. I would request that comments are made respectfully to the board. We are here to discuss the township's business. Citizen comments should pertain to specific issues, concerns, or policies they would like to bring to the board's attention. The documents on the website are aligned to the items on the agenda. These are draft documents to provide background information only. Just to be clear, motions were drafted to help the board more quickly get to the final wording and vote on the respective motions. The final motion may look different to reflect the actual action taken by the board. Board, we have 2 sets of minutes to approve. Are there any changes to the minutes to the regular board meeting of July 19th, 2022? Alan? Any comments?
No.
Okay. Sharon?
I have one typo.
Okay.
Well, it's on the page 2, under board comment. The acronyms that says ARCA should be ARPA.
Okay.
It's the American Rescue Plan Act. So instead of the C, it should be a P.
All right. Kath?
No.
No comments? All right. Then I will make the motion to approve the July 19th, 2022 regular board meeting minutes with changes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded to approve the minutes of regular board meeting of July 19th, 2022 with changes. Any further discussion regarding the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Are there any changes to the minutes to the special board meeting of July 29th, 2022, which reviewed a personnel addition that came to the board's attention after the regular meeting? Any comments or changes?
I have none.
I have none. Alan?
No, I have none.
Okay, Kat? All right, I will make the motion to approve the July 29th, 2022 special board meeting minutes. Is there a second, please?
I'll second it.
It is moved and seconded to approve the special board meeting of July 29th, 2022. Any further discussion regarding the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Kathy, correspondence?
Yes. I gave to the board members, and I also sent you an email yesterday in regard to the memo that we received from Mr. Hosmer, and I see that he and his lovely wife are here tonight, and I assume he'll want to talk to the board or address the community as well. But his memo is, or his letter is, my wife and I have owned property in this township and have lived in Torch Lake Township more than 55 years. During that time, we have seen the township grow from the old offices across the street from the post office in Eastport to the new offices in the current building. We have treasured the many years we have resided in this township and cannot think of a better place to live. It is our wish to stay in this township forever. As such, we purchased 5 plots at the northeastern back corner of Lakeview Cemetery. The decision of how to spend your eternal rest is very personal. And for us, it is important that our final resting place be in a tasteful, above-ground granite crypt. When we purchased our lots at Lakeview, we decided to model our double-wide crypt after the granite crypt that currently exists in the cemetery because it is simplistic yet elegant. I have attached a picture of that crypt for your convenience. It is our understanding that we will need to use 4 of our plots for the construction of our crypt. It is our hope that you will please allow us to build our crypt so that our final wishes of remaining in beautiful Torch Lake Township can be fulfilled. We are happy to meet with you to answer any questions or provide any additional details. And thank you for your attention to this matter. Your approval would mean a great deal to us. I did make a few extra copies. He's referring to the white crypt that's currently in Torch Lake Township. If you've gone by the cemetery, you've probably seen that. And it's not in our ordinance one way or the other, but that one kind of slipped by and got placed without having the proper approval. So now we have one, so the question is, what do we do about the others? And we do have that on our agenda later on this evening. So if anybody wants a copy of that, I have it right here. Okay. I didn't make that many, but Mr. White's mausoleum is in section 5, our new section of the cemetery. And he owns grave sites 1, 2, 3, and 4. And his wife is buried in grave 2. And there's a place for him to be buried in grave 1. So that's the details on that one. Whereas the Hosmers is in section 4. And they have 4 graves in lot 501 and 1 grave in lot 502. So according to what they've heard or discussed, and I know they've talked to Mr. Mortensen, what they would like would probably cover all 4 of those graves together. So that's the only communication that I have received.
All right, thank you. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I make the motion that the agenda be accepted as presented. Is there a second?
Could I ask a question? You did not include the cemetery ordinance in your agenda?
Put it down in business discussion.
No, but I mean the ordinance itself.
I did not, no.
I think that would be handy.
All right,
I thought I had one out and I didn't grab it when I left the house, but
I can get us one run off before we get there if you'd like.
yeah, we'll take.
I think it would be good even for the
It's
audience.
just
to
2
see it.
pages, so.
Yeah, it's only 2 pages.
We'll take a 5-minute break
Okay.
before board discussion then. All right, it's moved and seconded that the agenda is accepted as presented. Any further discussion regarding
I'm
the
sorry, I
motion?
missed the second.
We need a second.
All right, well, who's
I'll-
going to second it?
I will second it.
Ms. Schultz, I didn't miss it. Here it is.
It is moved and seconded that the agenda is accepted as presented. Any further discussion regarding the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That agenda is accepted. Now, we'll move to citizen comment. If you have comments, please speak up and give us your name and address. And who would like to go first? Would you like to go first?
Yeah.
All right. We'll let Jared sit there.
I got this in the right place. Is
Tap
that
it. Is
good?
it on?
No?
There, that's better.
Okay. I'm Barbara Boudros. I live at 1165 Bayview Drive, Keewaydin. And I noticed that the referendum that was on the ballot for August 2nd passed. It would have rescinded ordinance 2021-8. And subsequent to the election, the township is supposed to advertise or publish the results of the election, including, what happened, what's the effect of it, so on and so forth. And I haven't seen anything, excuse me, except for the short note in the supervisor's communication that it had passed. And so I took it upon myself to draft a resolution for what it's worth. You can use it or not. I mean, I'm just a type A personality, I guess. Anyway, so if it's helpful, great. I'd just like to see that get done because I think we're already past the 10-day deadline in the zoning ordinance or the,
The election.
Zoning Enabling Act.
Zoning Enabling Act. Thank you.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
And I appreciate your calling me on that this afternoon. So I've talked to Todd on that point, board, and we're following up on it. And Kathy,
I
as clerk, you're
Tried to
following
get a hold of MTA today, but I did not get a response, but I'm sure I will, so.
up. All right,
Bob, could you say that again? Because I couldn't hear you because you were facing that way.
which part? Oh, I
Talk
talked
to
to Todd.
the attorney,
I
yeah.
talked to Todd, and he's pursuing exactly what it is that the township needs to do. And I talked to Kathy. As clerk, she's responsible for handling the election. So we'll figure out what we have to do. We'll get it done.
No one has informed the applicant with regard to the election result?
Who's the applicant?
Mr. Vermeer?
No, he's
No,
not the
he's not.
applicant.
Well, I mean,
applicant-
it was his zoning application that was approved, and no one has informed him that it has been rescinded?
I'm
It's,
not sure if what the right protocol in that, but we'll drop him a note. I would think he's got a pretty good idea.
Well, usually there's an official, like usually the zoning administrator would send it out, or the chairman, the zoning administrator. In other cases, it would be the chairman of the committee. But it seems that we ought to at least start there and say, if we're not totally sure how to tell you it's been rescinded, we're looking into our attorney. But for now, it was rescinded by a vote of the people.
But that's fine. We can handle that. Sheriff, since you were already halfway to the mic.
Yeah, since I was already jumping up. The Antrim County Road Commission meeting this week. The Central Lake Garage is on schedule. They're hoping to be finishing that up at the end of September. They're feverishly working on the salt shed because that was started later. And we have to have that done by October because the road commission buys our salt in October for the year. So we think we're going to have that done in time too. Torch Lake Township has a number of your roads are done. They still have to do Stone Circle yet. I believe that's the only one I saw on the report for Torch Lake Township that is outstanding.
Well, we still have the nature preserve, but
Right.
that wouldn't fall under the township roads. But yeah, they've got that one yet. I think Bert said sometime in September.
Yeah,
is fine.
he mentioned that one too. Yeah, I forgot about that. He doesn't have it in the report, but is that Traverse Bay Road?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't put two and two together.
No problem.
Most of the paving is done in Antrim County. I think the main job that's not done yet is Rushton Road. Their Central Lake Township approved paving 1.1 miles from the village limits to, I think it's Mormon Bridge Road, redoing that and adding, normally a lane is, I believe, 10 feet, and they approved 13 feet so that people could ride bicycles along there if they want to. I think that's all I got.
All right.
Thank you.
Does the garage in Central Lake do the snow removal for this side of the county and Mansalona does the rest?
So we have a garage in Central Lake, and we have one in Keewaydin, and we have one in Mansalona. So we have three, but we have more trucks in Central Lake. So I can't answer your question definitively, whether it's Central Lake or Keewaydin that does here, but I'm sure it's one of the two. Keewaydin?
Most of it.
Most of it. They might split it up. They might split Torch Lake Township up. There might be a certain number. They have it all charted out. There's certain roads that the 8 or 10 trucks that are in Central Lake take care of, and then the trucks in Keewaydin, and then the big garage, which is also where they do all the work and repair on the trucks, is in Mansalona.
The reason I ask is that one year I got the idea, I was so pleased with the way they were working all hours, day and night in the snow, that I wanted to take them all a lunch bag to take with them, just as a thank you. And then I got caught up in who's where. So you give me some idea what to look for. Thank you.
Yeah, so there's 37 road commission employees, and they're split up among the 3 for time and efficiency's sake.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Any others? Bill, you're moving. All right. Very good. Thank you very much for your
Wait.
comments. Oops, you
Jack.
didn't wave. Come on up.
I don't hear very well.
Pull it down, Jack. Pull it down a little.
Got it.
My name is Jack Osmer, and my wife is sitting right over there, Virginia. And we submitted a letter to Kathy, and she graciously read it tonight. And I just wanted you to know that we're here. And we would like you to vote favorably on our request. And we would appreciate it very much.
Okay, thank you. Check one more time. No other comments. We will move on to the consent agenda. Anyone wish to pull any of the reports? If not, I have one. I would like to pull the treasurer's report. If none of the other reports are wanted, then I would move that all the other reports are accepted by consensus. And if everyone turns to the treasurer's report, you will see a footnote for the general fund. One of the things that we've been saying regarding the ARPA money, which has come out to roughly $123,889.
$99.61.
Yeah. 124,000, we'll round it, keep it simple. And what I'm going to be doing is reflecting the general fund with those funds excluded. Now, unfortunately, government accounting is different than corporate accounting, and we can't set up a reserve on the books, on the balance sheet for that 124,000. So I'm going to be stating that numbers in my finance report with the 124,000 taken out. And I'll remind everybody that those funds are available for purposes of the township. And as of right now, we're putting that away for a rainy day, and we'll move forward. The funds are in excellent shape. And so at this point, that's a nice little kitty for us.
We have to use it within 2 years.
2 years? Huh? We get to use it then. All right, if I will make the motion to accept the treasurer's report. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. The motion has been moved and seconded to accept the treasurer's report. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Moving on to our special reports. We have the Planning Commission. Jason is not here, but I don't think they had a meeting in July.
They did
We
not.
did not.
Kath, a FOIA update?
Yes, sir. Well, the big FOIA that we've been working on for quite a long time, I sent the final materials off to the attorney for that FOIA. I haven't heard back anything that they need anything more, but that one is completed. But then in the meantime, 3 new ones have come in. Yes, Mr. Stern. It was a FOIA from an attorney. We don't know who the client is, but it's from an attorney wanting a ton of information about the airport, the runways, the history, a whole bunch. And he wanted it basically from Board and Planning Commission. So we did an IT right search for some previous board members to get emails, et cetera. And it just, the whole thing took a long time. And the amount of material that was submitted ended up being about that tall on my desk. And it all was scanned and sent on flash drives to that gentleman. So
Is it done, you said?
it's done. It's been
Okay.
mailed. Haven't heard that there's anything more he wants or needs, but I'm just happy that one is finished. And then in the meantime, 3 new ones have come in. One of them has been completed. It was a request for voter information, registered voters for Torch Lake Township, and some labels were printed off for that requester of those who voted absentee in the August 2nd election. And then the one that's causing a little bit of headache was sent out to the whole state of Michigan. And we've gotten response from the Bureau of Elections as to how to handle it. And there were about 10 things listed on their request. And it's also voter and election information, but most of it is not information that they are allowed to have. And so it was suggested by the Bureau of Elections that we consult our township attorney and see what that recommendation would be. And I have in fact contacted Mr. Millar, but have not heard back. The Bureau gave us for example, 1 through 6, they can't have, and 7 through 10 shouldn't be a problem to provide. So I'm in the middle of that one. So FOIA continues. And it's all mostly election stuff, isn't it? Mostly, seems like.
The big one was the attorney from, what was it, Muskegon?
Yeah, Muskegon. Like I said, we don't know who the client is. We're not.
You had the other one, Spencer wanted stuff on the rewritten ordinances, but until Sarah finishes
That's right.
her final comment.
That's the third one. Whatever the steering commission recommends to the planning commission, the FOIA request is for that information, which hasn't been shared with the planning commission yet. And their meeting this month was canceled, so that won't go to planning commission until September.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, tomorrow night is ZBA,
CBA.
but planning was canceled this month. So that's it for FOIA as of 4:00 this afternoon.
All right. I'll give a quick financial overview. As I've always indicated, any questions regarding the financials can be directed either to myself or the clerk's office. For current month, July cash flow was flat, down 7,000. That was due to our collecting in the last Fed government ARPA funds of $62,000. Excluding that payment, we would have been negative 69,000. Even without those funds, all funds were positive versus budget in prior year for the month. Year to date, all funds are favorable to budget except the road fund, and that was due to the timing of the payment last month of our down payment to the road commission. The fire fund is under budget, but is above prior year due to capital expenditures and other items. And those expenditures was a timing issue. They were supposed to arrive in March and they didn't come in until May? So all funds are in good shape. The specific line item details can be found on the website under our board meeting information, and the file is called Fund by Detail Line. In the interest of time, I will hit the high points. Our cash position remains in good shape as the treasurer's report indicates a balance in the general fund of $905,925. That is after the reserve of the $124,000 is taken out. The fire fund is at $476. The ambulance fund, $499,000, and the road fund, $112,000. I mentioned at the last meeting, I was going to look at the cash flow forecast and see how close we will be to our budget prior to December tax collections. Currently, we are $133,000 positive against the budget after the ARPA money is removed. Over the next 4 months, I do not see any area that should drive our expenses higher by that amount. Therefore, I think we will be in good shape at the end of November when we begin collecting our winter taxes. That finishes my report. Tom Joseph was supposed to be here tonight. I did not hear from him. He was going to speak on septic inspections, septic system inspections. And he was going to review what Milton did, some of the lessons learned, and then what Torch Lake Township might be able to do, utilizing an ordinance and lessons learned from what Milton originally did in their document. He is not here. I've got his presentation, but I'm not going to give it for him. So he sent me a document. It's 10, 12 pages long on Antrim's county philosophy on it. So I will move that to next month, and we'll cover it at that time. All right, that concludes that. Moving to the next item, it's board action. We have no old business. We've got 6 items for new business. All right, item number 1. The Planning Commission draft noise power police ordinance. As an introduction, I took the comments that Mr. Spencer made, I believe it was in June, and from others of the township. And my feeling was we ought to think about preparing a noise ordinance for the township. I'm not sure why one has never been completed, and Alan, you might be able to help explain why a noise ordinance was either considered and not followed through on, or didn't feel during your term what was needed. But at this point, I don't have that historical perspective. So I would like us to consider passing the motion to send it to the Planning Commission and let them start the process and have public hearings and see what they come up with. So I'll open it up for discussion.
The main difficulty always was enforcement. And you have to have meters. You've got to then verify the meters. You've got to take them from a certain position. You may have to enter their property or be on the road off their property. And Traverse City had a lot of difficulty with theirs for the very same reasons. It's a difficult one to enforce. But the lawyers go into court and said, well, how loud was it? It's a Johnny Carson question. How loud was it? And you get into that kind of an issue. It's a very difficult one. So we didn't pursue it. But we didn't have any success around us with regard to noise ordinances. Anybody who would wave their hand and says ours works. And ours started because of the band music that was floating down to Torch Lake from Agaming when they had the weddings up there. And we got into that whole idea of the ordinance. What Agaming did, and for their situation, they tested noise like every hour, every couple hours with their meters. And they had spots around the perimeter of the hill where they would check it to make sure that they were not noisy. And they put in a berm, which is no longer needed because now they've got sort of a wall around that wedding thing. They put in a wooden or earthen berm to protect the noise from going down the hill. The only thing that I remember that I found out, which I found so interesting, was the best noise inhibitor is a cement wall. So you now notice the expressways have the cement walls going down. Some of them are quite decorative. but they do work. And I talked to the highway department, the Michigan Highway Department about that, and yes, indeed, they do work. So I don't think we want to do that, but it's a tough one. I mean, you can do it, but you got to have enforcement out there, and you got to have meters, you got to be ready to prove it, and, yeah, I don't know where you go with that.
All right. Sure.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Well, I was just going to say, I remember being at a meeting, it started even before Agaming. I can remember Nancy Ellison, who used to be, was she on the planning or was she a board member? I'm not sure. But they looked at a noise ordinance way back when and decided not to for the same reasons, that it's impossible to try and enforce. So they never did follow through on it. So it's been out there for a long time.
Sure.
Yeah, I was going to reiterate, yes, it was how do you control it, or how do you, not control it, but how do you manage it? I think, can you remember, Alan, is there a county ordinance, noise ordinance? They had talked about that too. I'm not sure they were going that direction for having a county one to regulate all the 15 townships. Jairus just shaking his head no,
I
so.
don't think they do.
All right.
And I don't know of any, does anyone know, do you know, or Alan, if there's any other in Torch Lake, in Antrim County that has it in the township level?
I don't remember, but I think there is, but I can't tell you who that would be. It's one of the zones of townships,
Well, there's only half of them zoned.
correct? So it's one of those, maybe Elk Rapids, I'm not sure.
Well, my question was, how many in Antrim County have that?
No.
So only half the county is zoned, so it'd be like 6 or 7 townships, if there were any.
Yes, 8 of the 15 are zoned in Antrim County. 8 of the 15 townships.
Does it make any difference that we have an ordinance enforcement officer or not? I just throw that out, that's one change that we have. I mean, back when you guys had a constable, well, you didn't have a noise ordinance, so there wouldn't have been any enforcement. But if you had enforcement with the meter,
Is he going to be around 24/7?
well, the question is, setting up the time, most of that stuff is weekends, but again, it's just, it was a thought. I thought I'd present it as an idea. We can push it to the planning commission or we can stop it here. I've got no skin in this game.
The sheriff responds to noisy neighbors. I wonder what they do, how they, those noisy neighbors and parties and
Yeah.
things like that.
I-
And,
Spencer was not, I think what really generated Bob was that party at the big house there.
yep.
And I know he called the sheriff and I don't think there were any results from that. So, but once again, you don't know if the sheriff has all the bodies out there or if they're in other parts of the county. So, all right, well,
Could we table this and look at other townships within our region and see if they have them? What's pro and con and
Or
what they
couldn't we
do?
have the planning commission do
well,
that?
that was my point.
Yeah,
was
yeah.
Send it to the planning commission, let them do the groundwork and have them come back to us and
See
say, hey,
what they
guys, it
find,
doesn't make
right?
sense.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
I don't
to
know if
me.
this motion was,
Remember, it's a draft motion. It's something to get started. So
I didn't know
motion's
if
direct-
this motion is to make them do it or just research it or,
Well, it's to prepare a noise police power ordinance for the Torch Lake Township Board consideration. If they come back and say, hey, we don't think it's necessary, we're not able to do it, that takes care of it.
That's the end of that.
Yeah. Alan?
I have nothing more to say on that. Do you?
All right.
What else, what's on their agenda right now, the planning commission? This,
Ton.
the
They have a
zoning
lot.
ordinance updates and so forth, right?
But you're talking about a police power. You're not talking about a zoning ordinance, noise ordinance.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
but we're still asking them to look into it.
Right.
And if they're busy with other things on their plate,
Well, I can let the chairman decide if he can do it or not.
Hmm.
It's up to the board if we want to pass it to them or not.
How about and/or planning commission and/or zoning administrator? Maybe Sarah's got a finger on the pulse a little better and could research it a little more easily.
We can modify, again, guys, it's a draft, so we can modify the language any way we want. What are you thinking there? I see your eyebrows.
Well, I'm looking at, I was thinking of, a few weeks ago, Uncle Alan had to get up at 2 a.m. and go over to his neighbor's house, who happens to be his niece, who wasn't there, but her kids were there, older, having quite a good time for the weekend, and to slow them down with regard to the noise, and they did. It's always good to tell your neighbor, we're gonna have a little bit of a party, and it's just tonight, or we're gonna have a gathering for some kind of celebration. That, it's almost like it's just courtesy with regard to that, and I don't know if everybody follows that, but
But we know somebody did.
for some reason, this is one of my major complaints about the people that come up here. They bring their noise, and we sleep in a place where we can hear it snow. And we don't need your firecrackers. We don't need your loud boats. We don't need your motorcycles and all of that. It's extremely disturbing, yet that seems to be the way they want to enjoy the North. We don't enjoy it that way generally. I don't think the people that are here all the time. But when we get angry about that, about the noise ordinance, what I would recommend, I would say, ask the sheriff, Sheriff, what do you do when you get a call like this? What do you go over and what do you say to them? And do they slow it up? And do you have any authority whatsoever? There is public nuisance kind of things out there, and I don't know if that applies in any way or not. I keep thinking back to when I found out about the problem with short-term rentals was that somebody at the south end of the township called up because in late June, a fraternity had rented a house on Lake Michigan, and nobody in the neighborhood could sleep at all. It was just one party after party. And that, I wasn't dealing with the noise as much as I was with the short-term rental thing here. So I don't know.
Sure.
I don't have an answer.
I'm the same way. I know we beat the drum many times. And for us to, I'm not sure, I mean, yes, we can look at it, we can ask questions, but I'm concerned with making them do it type of scenario without,
Change the word.
I'm not sure how the wording's going to be. I've looked at it several times.
Well,
Well,
instead of
All
direct,
right, so how about if I,
suggest.
Instead of saying prepare, just say research.
that's fine. Just want to get the ball rolling.
Right.
All right. All right, I'm fine with research, and I'm fine with the change and/or the zoning administrator.
Okay.
Everybody comfortable with that? If no other recommendations, then I'll make the motion to direct the planning commission and/or zoning administrator to research a noise police power ordinance for the Torch Lake Township Board consideration. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion has been moved and seconded to direct the planning commission and/or zoning administrator to research a noise police power ordinance for the Torch Lake Township Board consideration. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none?
Did you say you took research, you took prepared out and put research?
Yes. I did.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Ellen, we're going to get you one of.
No, I forgot my ears tonight, that would help.
I was just going to say, I think that
Give him one of those things
know,
back there.
we got Lee some special device for hearing.
Oh, I don't need it, I don't need it if I have my ears in, but I didn't bring them, so,
All right.
excuse me.
So, Kath,
Do you want roll call, sir?
well, I don't think we need that.
We-
I'm going to say all in favor, say aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, board.
Good discussion.
All right, item number 2. As you will recall, when I made the motion related to the annual meeting, I added that we would create a compensation committee with my appointees identified for the August 16th board meeting. You have the three individuals I would like to nominate and their comments. I have spoken to each of them and believe they will bring the energy and due diligence to provide the board with a framework for the upcoming budget for 2023-2024. Any comments, questions?
I missed that June meeting, but I followed up with it, so I'll make that motion.
All right. And the motion is what I printed out.
Yes.
All right, so the motion to appoint Denise Walker, David Nussdorfer, and Peg Osmus to the Torch Lake Township Compensation Committee for a 6-month term effective August 17th, 2022, with a target report date to the board of November 15th, 2022.
Can I ask a question? Sharon, do you remember when we had the compensation group? But it seems like it's, what, more than 10 years ago? Easily.
I can tell you, it was Mr. Spencer.
Oh, he had it?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And
And we had it for several years, but then either people moved away or currently are deceased.
Okay.
So-
I don't remember it when George Parker was supervisor. That's why I
It might have
raised the
carried
question.
I think it carried over a little bit into that, but it
It didn't
it-
continue?
no.
Okay.
didn't go beyond that.
Well, this is in lieu of the annual meeting, right?
let's just take one at a time.
Oh, okay.
I'll second the motion. So the motion has been moved and seconded to appoint Denise Walker, David Nussdorfer, and Peg Osmus to the Torch Lake Township Compensation Committee for a 6-month term effective August 17th, 2022, with a target report date to the board of November 15th, 2022. Any discussion on the motion?
The only thing that I could say is they can seek out MTA and I can be able to help them if they have any avenues that they want to look forward to, so I can
Yep.
direct them in areas if they need help.
Well, they're all currently on our.
Not all of them.
Township. Oh, Peg isn't. We'll get Peg on our Torch Lake email.
Right, because hers says that she's not directly related to human resources or compensation, so
Right.
and townships, so I thought maybe I would.
That's fine. Perfect. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 3. It's a quick introduction. I have included Bob Hawkins' resignation letter for your information. I want to thank Bob for his service on the Planning Commission and appreciate his continued work as our ordinance enforcement officer, a member of our fire team, member of the Day Park Committee, and worker at the Day Park. Thank you again, Bob, for your service to our community. Kevin Woodward, who's back there in the bright red shirt, has expressed an interest in filling Bob's position on the Planning Commission for the last 2 months of Bob's term. Kevin brings a broad range of government experience and works for a civil engineering firm. I believe Kevin is a great fit for our Planning Commission, even if it's only for 2 months. Any discussion related to this appointment?
I'll make a motion to appoint Kevin Woodward.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion is made to appoint Kevin Woodward to the Torch Lake Township Planning Commission effective August 17th, 2022, with a term ending October 31st, 2022. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll need a roll call vote on that.
Okay. Sharon,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Jason absent, Bob,
Yes,
and myself, yes.
thank you, board. Welcome, Kevin. Item number 4. As an introduction, Marcia Peterson has submitted her resignation as alternate number 1 for the ZBA per her note included in your file. Marcia has served for the past couple of years as an alternate and fulfilled the role of secretary for the ZBA. I know the past chairman and current chairperson greatly appreciated her work, and I want to thank her for her service and dedication to the ZBA during her tenure. And on a personal note, she's been a great friend, so appreciated her service on the board. Marcia came to me a couple of months back requesting her moving off of the ZBA as soon as I could find a replacement. I posted the opening in my newsletter these last couple of months, and the only one I received was from Rita. Marcia's term has a little over 2 years remaining. I spoke to Todd regarding whether there is a conflict given my position as supervisor and my wife being recommended for the ZBA. He indicated there is no conflict. Marcia was alternate, it's going to be a little shuffling. Marcia was alternate number 1, and Kristen Graves was alternate number 2. Given Bob Hawkins and Marcia's resignation, Kristen will sit on the ZBA hearing at tomorrow's ZBA. And if approved, Rita would move in as alternate number 2 for the remainder of Marcia's term. Rita brings a strong analytical background to the position and will be thorough in her work for the ZBA. Any discussion on the nomination? Do I have a motion then for the nomination?
I differ with Todd's analysis of that. I served more than 12 years on the ZBA and chairman probably half of that time. And I've been to many, many conferences on ZBA training, both put on by the Michigan Township Association as well as Michigan State Extension Service. And the difficulty with this appointment is that the supervisor appoints all members of the Planning Commission as well as the ZBA, and then the board votes yea or nay on that. The alternates on the ZBA participate in all of the appeals. And they often, in fact, they usually go out and even see the situation if it's a dimensional appeal. The Zoning Board of Appeals deals with a variance that you want on your property because you've got a wetland in the way or something like that. It also deals with interpretations of the zoning ordinance. It also deals with interpretations by the zoning administrator. And they interpret whether or not those, what that means. The one that was the most, it took almost a year was whether or not short-term rentals were allowed in Torch Lake Township. That went on for more than a year. And to the point where I even talked to a lady in a nursing home in Florida who was on the original group along with Nancy Ellison that put the planning together back in 1983. And then it was substantiated by a court later that indeed short-term rentals were not part of the original zoning ordinance. The problem is that you have that discussion. And I looked in the Michigan Township Association, this is the red book, and this is the Standards of Conduct for Public Officers and Employees Act, Public Act 196 of 1973, MCL 15.341, and others. Catherine Mulhop from the MTA writes, generally speaking, the act prohibits, and this is the one that caught my attention more, it has nothing to do with who the person is. It has to do with the close relative of the supervisor who appoints. Subject to limited exception, engaging in employment that is incompatible or in conflict with official duties or may impair independent judgment. Now, it isn't so much that the appointee would have impair their independent judgment as much as the other members of the ZBA could impair their judgment with regard to offending or, wanting to go along with. The ZBA is the legislative body of this township. When you're done with the ZBA, if you got a complaint, you go to circuit court. You don't come back to the board. You don't go to another body or anything like that. You go to circuit court and the judge is going to decide whether or not it was fairly heard and fairly interpreted. And so the people on the ZBA should be as independent as possible without any appearance of of undue influence. I see in my own mind, especially on some interpretations of the zoning ordinance, and especially with regard to interpretations of the zoning administrator's decision about the zoning ordinance, that a lawyer would, this is fodder for the lawyer. He could take the person that got an interpretation they didn't like and they go to court, they're going to say, yeah, but they didn't act independently, and here's why. And I think it's a very good relationship cause. It's nothing to do with, I mean, there's no question about the qualifications of Ms. Service. The question is that it seems to me that we should have someone else. And it seems to me that we should pursue that. I mean, there's 1,100 and, what is it, Kathy, 82 voters in this township. There ought to be somebody that would be an alternate on ZBA. But the alternates do participate on the ZBA. Like I said, they'll talk, they're part of the discussion. They don't vote. Tomorrow night, Krista Graves is going to be part of the actual voting group because of what, I don't know what the reason is. But anyways, so that's my thought. It's not a good idea. And I think it will, I don't know, it's not, that we ought to keep that body as separate and as isolated in their judgment as possible. That's my thought. I don't think it's very good for the ZBA for that kind of appointment.
All right, thanks, Al. Sure.
Well, each vote they have is very independent anyway. Each member of that ZBA would be an independent vote. They would have to search and diligently and do their due diligence of deriving at that decision. So are you saying, Alan, that a decision could be altered because
No,
of?
what I'm saying is when you say yay or nay on the ZBA, I don't know how you're coming to yay or nay. Are you coming to yay or nay because you indeed have independently come to that? Or are you saying yay or nay because you're being influenced in a way that, in which you want to not displease or please or follow? In other words, and again, working with the ZBA members, they were a phenomenal group to work with because indeed that's what we did. And we had, I mean, they really did look hard at every issue they had, including different types of variances. You don't want to have, in fact, I mentioned one time I think it was Dave Barr, and someone had called me about a variance that was going on. And I said, Dave, this variance that you have, Alan, I can't talk about it. I said, okay, Dave. Just like that. And I said, okay, no problem. But that's exactly how that process has been carried on. They keep themselves isolated because they are the legislative body. It's like you don't want your judges to have undue influence from somebody else in the township. Not that that doesn't happen, but they are judging. They are going to be judging. And it's not a good appointment, Bob. It's not a good appointment. No question about the qualifications of the person, but it's not a good appointment.
All right, Kathy.
Well, clarify, we used to have Bill Peterson on the board and Marcia being his mom. Would that have been a conflict of interest? Were they at the same time? I know Marcia's been there for a while. I can't,
Bill was on the planning commission.
He was a trustee.
he was a
Yeah, but he
trustee.
wasn't on the ZBA.
But Alan's talking about,
So
well,
here's-
are you talking about board or just husbands and wives
Well, no,
in
it's
general?
the
or-
husband and wife is where the difficulty is. It's too close a relationship.
Or
Again,
mother and
It
son?
indicates here, and this is, again, I trust Catherine Malhop, who wrote this so well because she's been so helpful to us. Inflict or in conflict with official duties or that may impair independent judgment. And to me, it's the perception of independent judgment with regard to any kind of issue. And the issues that really get critical, Kathy, are not the dimensional ones. We need 10, we don't want 10 feet from the side, we want 5 for this reason. It's the interpretations of both the ordinance and the zoning administrator's decision.
Well, my comment is the same. We had a mother-son relationship between ZBA and board. Is that any different than a husband and a wife's
Yes,
relationship?
because starting of nominations begins with the supervisor. The supervisor must appoint, or you have no one to consider. After they appoint, you can say yea or nay, but it starts with the supervisor. And that's the conflict. If it started with the board, then you get into that, possibly that question of board members being on there. But because it begins there, and it's an important appointment, all of them are, that I think it's, to me, I see impropriety there. And again, I see legal judgment coming in and saying, they were not able to make an independent judgment because for whatever reason, and lawyers can round up a lot of reasons
What-
out of nowhere.
What I would like to say is that we're a small township and there's not a lot of people, and that Bob's advertised it and then nobody's stepped forward, even though you say we have 1,100, there's not. Let me finish. There are a lot of, within this county, for sure, that are husband and wives are on boards together. And we have several of them that are husband and wife, and a separate person on a 5-member board in this county. And there's husband and wife, and very important boards also, township boards, a clerk and a treasurer, which is 2 dual signatures. There's a lot of those around too. So, and there's, in one township for sure, we have a husband and wife, and a 5th person that are on a board member. So you have to do with what you have and work the best you can. So
Well, I think, again, we're talking about, first, I don't see the quick hurry for doing this, but advertising, if you wanted, I have an email list. You want me to send out an email list to see if there's a volunteer out there, I'd be glad to do it. It's fairly extensive. I'm sure we could get some candidates there. With regard to the husband and wife situation, when you make a ZBA decision that eventually that next step is circuit court, we're talking usually about something very, very important to a very valuable township. We're one of the most valuable townships in Antrim County, property-wise and values. It's got to be clean. It's got to be as clean as it can be. And we're big enough now that we can do that, I think, in terms of numbers. But, we've been able to find people to serve on a number of things.
My interpretation of knowing Rita, she's very independent.
Well,
So-
again, I can't go by that.
Well, let me jump back in here. I figured you would object. That's why I checked with Todd. The book does not specifically, neither does any of the zoning acts, eliminate that possibility, number one. Number two, she's being nominated for alternate number 2, which means for her to be able to sit on the ZBA, there's got to be 2 absences. And at least in my 2.5 years, we have never gotten to the second person. And I think they got to the second person only during a transition period. As far as unnecessary influence, I think having spent 2.5 years on the ZBA, there are instances in which people do try to influence, and the board members are mature enough individuals and take their responsibilities to heart that they move away from those types of things. I don't think Rita would have a problem moving away from that type of thing. And I certainly am not going to jeopardize my reputation by doing something that would cause her to do something that would not be appropriate on the ZBA. So as far as I'm concerned, I think it's a fair appointment. It would be an appointment that's alternate number 2. We have another opening coming up in October for the ZBA, which means I would be looking for 2 people. And I had a tough time originally getting ZBA people. So, board, I will leave it up to you. I will make a motion.
Well, again, to add to that, Bob, you talked about them, the only like this, you're having a person step up tomorrow. It's not that. It's the influence that they have because they participate in the discussion. They participated in the investigation, and they have an influence with regard to the result. There's no question about the ethical behavior.
Just ask a question for a second. I served 2.5 years. Dave Barr never had the alternates take part or participate in any of our decisions or discussions.
It's true.
And he specifically stated they were not to participate. So I don't know if during your term in the ZBA or somewhere else, that in fact the individual had that participation. Dave Barr never had it, and Laura Anderson is not having it. So I do not anticipate that type of behavior coming from my ZBA chairperson.
They didn't even sit at the table.
Right, they don't sit at the table.
Again, well, it was different when I was there because, and what we did was we encouraged the alternates to take a look at the situation. And the purpose of that was that it became a good training ground for them to take a look at what we were looking at. And so then there was an opening, they moved into it. Now, Dave, I have to ask Dave if he never did that, but the point is, we still have conversations and discussions after the meeting, before the meeting. And again, I keep looking at this statement here, may impair independent judgment. And this one is not that it would happen, Bob, it's the perception from the public that you've got to deal with.
That's fine.
And I think you actually could do a little more thorough job to having looked for somebody.
Well,
But I'll leave it at that.
Good.
And you know I'm going to, you know how I'm going to vote.
I'll make the motion.
Bob made the motion.
Oh,
Motion
Would you like to
nominate
second?
Rita Service to fulfill the term of Marcia Peterson as an alternate to the Zoning Board of Appeals effective August 17th, 2022, with the term ending October 31st, 2024. Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Kathy, would you do a roll call vote?
I will indeed. Oh, I get to go first. I'm hearing both sides of this story, and I'm not quite sure how I feel. I don't want the perception, if I say no, I don't want the perception to be, well, you know, she doesn't like Rita. It doesn't have anything to do with that. But I think Alan has a valid point that, and I think when you say undue influence, you may not even realize you're having influence on how she thinks. She hears you say blah, 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 and, you know, she might say,
Right.
oh, you know.
We're in vote.
So I know I'm in a vote, not a discussion, but I'm really having a hard time. And I'm first. So I am going to say no.
Okay. Sharon?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes?
Alan?
No.
Okay,
I was afraid of that.
very well. We will revisit this in September as we will have another opening coming up.
So what do we call this? It's just a,
Do you want me to look for other candidates
Well,
if you're waiting September?
I mean, if
2-2.
you want to, I mean. of
I mean, I'm
course.
glad to see if there's anyone else out there that you might like
Well,
also.
it's probably people that aren't reading my newsletter.
Well, that's true too. Well, maybe not, may or maybe not. Sometimes Bob, a little urging helps people. And again, the need.
Yeah,
The reason I would do that is I really like the ZBA and it's such an important body to this township.
Alan, that's fine. Not a problem.
Okay, let me see what I can find. I'll start banging the bushes.
And I'll get to interview. All right, item number 5. As an introduction, this change did not last very long. Recap, Alan brought to our attention that maybe the annual meeting is not required as the state eliminated the requirement for general townships in 1988. We checked the township records starting in 1989 through 91, could not find any record of the ballot initiative to reinstate the annual meeting by the vote of the community. Based on discussions with Todd, we decided to pass a formal resolution related to the annual meeting at the June meeting. It was passed. Kim Schmidt called me and said that such a ballot petition did come before the board in 1991 and was passed. We went back and could not find, and credit to Sharon, she did a lot of research. We could not find anything in the records. Sharon then checked with the Antrim County records, and sure enough, a ballot initiative had been placed before the township voters and was approved in November of 1992. Sharon went back to the minutes of 1992 and found that in August of 92, Ed Martell had filed a petition with the board to place on the ballot the reinstatement of the annual meeting. The township voters passed it. So I guess it was your nephew, and you forgot that he had done that because you were part of the meeting, I think, in the rest of the minutes, but that's okay. So we have a little housekeeping.
So what did he do?
He filed the petition to the board to put the reinstatement of the annual meeting
On the ballot.
on the ballot.
And that's all that was needed to be done
No,
is,
it went to the voters.
and the voters
put it
said
back
yes.
on.
Election.
Okay, okay.
There was a number of, there's 500 and some votes in that election, 511.
And I guess it came out as I talked to some of the other people that, Ellen, you didn't hold one of the annual meetings because you thought it had been eliminated based on the 1988 act.
Yeah, we had to do a lot of juggling to bring it back,
Right.
to take care of that, yes.
Right, so here we are. So we have a housekeeping to reinstate the annual meeting by submitting a resolution to do so based on the attorney. You have the resolution in front of you. Kathy, I have a cleaner copy because we have one that says Lake is L-A-K with no E, and Allen's Martell has two L's. So I will make the motion to approve Resolution 2022-13, a resolution reinstating the Torch Lake Township annual meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded to approve resolution number 2022-13, a resolution reinstating the Torch Lake Township annual meeting. Any discussion on the motion?
We're reinstating it, and then with the idea that, well, this gives it, so then we plan the annual meeting for March of next year.
Yep.
But then we would look at the idea of possibly taking it to the voters to see if they would want it to continue.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. I thought you might take your nephew's place and start the petition for getting enough of the signatures, and I think it's the same as a referendum. I think it's 125 based on, well, we would have a new, we won't be there yet. We'll have the old governor's race, which had 827 some odd votes, if I remember correctly. So maybe you could take that on with your list and get a petition to have the annual meeting eliminated for the August ballot.
Let's see how my time is, but that's a thought. You know, again, it's not that it's a bad meeting, we just didn't get the participation. In recent times we have. It's a time for the people to speak out, to come and take over the meeting and generally talk about what they were concerned about. I mean, we had questions with regard to, well, zoning would be part of it. Sometimes there was a question about EMS. Offers a lot of compliments about the fire department often, kind of thing, because we've had a really active and strong fire department. But it was good for the people just to speak generally. I mean, they get up to the mic here and usually it's a complaint or it's a concern. And this was what they would talk about as the things that they'd like to see continue and keep going. And it was very friendly. And we had donuts and coffee for Tom and things like that. So it was not a bad meeting, but then it was difficult to get the participation out. We get caught up in the only thing that they could, there was a time when the public took over. They took over the township for that period of time, and they said, here's what you're going to do next for the next year. Those kinds of things were eliminated, and the only thing that gets approved now is the salary resolutions that we pass ahead of time.
Ellen, Could we move on to the vote, please?
But what I'm getting at though is it's a good question with regard to do we want it? And I would think before we would just solicit a petition, we might explain it to people and see if they want to continue it and then go for the petition idea. Let me see if I can do something on that. Don't ask for a report, but I'll tell you when I have something.
I would ask for a report. All right.
Roll call
Kathy, we
vote.
need a roll call vote on that.
All right, Mr. Cook, you're first.
Yes?
Sharon?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Alan?
Yes.
All right.
And Mr. Merchant,
So
absent.
we didn't have a choice, so had to pass.
Yeah. Yeah. you say really
There's a
well.
lot on this meeting here that I missed on the June meeting. This was one of them again, so I
All right. That's all right.
diligently searched that baby out.
There's nothing we can't fix because nobody died. So, all right, last item. As an introduction, Kevin Lang came to me and suggested that there is a need for a storage shed behind the fire station. Kevin, you're on the floor. It's all yours.
Yes, we have an issue with the lawnmowers, the rider lawnmower, backpack blowers, miscellaneous stuff that's used for maintenance for the township that is usually stored in the Bay Area of Station 2. And we use Station 2 a lot in the wintertime for our air pack training because we can use the smoke machines down there.
Station 2 down there.
Yeah. And
just wanted
so
everybody
I
to know.
thought it would be a good idea maybe to consider purchasing a small shed for back here to where that we can store all this equipment for the winter and that, and keep the bay open down there. And it would be big enough that if we have any miscellaneous items that occur in the future that could be stored there, we could do it that way.
Take the chairs in there,
Yeah.
UTLA chairs.
Yeah, anything. So I just thought I would recommend this for the board for discussion and see what you said. I found a 12 by 24. I think that's adequate. I think with the concrete, I was thinking about it'd be around maybe $2,300 for a concrete slab to put this building on.
Who builds this building?
It comes together. Al and I talked about we might do it ourselves. And that would be a cost savings factor too. We got enough skilled labor on the department that we probably can do this ourselves.
So this price here is put together already or not put
That's just,
together?
it comes unassembled.
That's a kit.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Questions, Alan?
The only thing it's fine. I just can't see the position of it behind how much room do we have back there?
There's a nice large area behind the station to where I believe they told me the propane tanks used to be. And it's pretty much it's already graded, it's flat area. And that would be the ideal spot for it. It's just back where we put the cars for extrication training.
Can you meet the setbacks for zoning?
We would probably have to get a permit.
Okay.
My only thought would be, are you going large enough? I built a 24 by 24 garage, and I had no garage before that. Now you can't get a piece of
You can't get
wood
the
in
car
that
there.
garage anymore, so
You have
don't
a
go
garage.
too small.
That's
On the-
why I selected a 12 by 24.
That doesn't sound like it's big enough, though. Is that big enough?
I think it would be more than adequate for.
I don't know. I don't have a visual of your junk either, so I don't know. Hey, that didn't come out right now, did it?
That wasn't right.
Junk.
It's kind of.
Yours
important
junk, not
equipment.
this junk.
Lawnmowers and snow blowers and other junk.
Any,
So I just don't go too small. That's all I would say.
You're comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Bill, way back there.
Why do we need a zoning permit for additional storage building back there, Alan?
We'll just check with the zoning administrator, but we don't need, we'll just double check it.
I'm like,
Let's not-
what?
We don't need to get it. Bill?
The reason why you would is because it's over 200 square feet. you'll need a zoning permit, a state permit, or a building permit, and then you'll have to be able to prove that structure meets the Antrim County
Antrim County what?
snow load.
Snow load.
So
Yeah,
if
for the
it
roof.
were 10 by 20, even if it were two 10 by 20s, you don't need permits. You just have to put it in setback. So that is just one caveat that
Gotcha.
I'd like the board to
So-
be aware of.
Well,
Not that they don't need the space.
right.
No,
No, what,
I
what
don't
we're saying is
argue
that
that.
I gave the example that was attached. We have alternatives to that. The idea here is that we're giving the fire chief the okay to go ahead up to $6,500. So that's motion. Any other discussion on the motion? I'll
I
make
have
the
none.
motion to
24.
purchase and install a concrete pad storage building with an estimated cost not to exceed without board approval of $6,500. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion on a motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. You have your 6,500 and sit down with Bill and see what you can work out.
And the zoning board.
Stay put, I think I'm up again.
I think, let's see, no, the moratorium on the cemetery is the first one. All right, that completes new business. We'll move to the agenda on board discussion. The first thing is the moratorium. Everyone received a copy of the email from Alan. I'll be honest, Kathy, Sharon, and Ellen had the most experience on this subject. And so I defer to them. The matter came up in a special meeting where we were adding some personnel that came in after the regular meeting. And Kathy initiated the discussion with the request that was coming in. Kathy and Alan weighed in on it, and I said, that's fine because there was not a meeting of the minds at that meeting. So it is on the agenda for board discussion, and I will open it up to the three of them. And I think Kathy, you can start since I think you're the one that was in favor of this and others had others' opinions. So you can
That's
carry it.
true. I do not object to the concept of the mausoleums, if I'm saying that correctly. I would agree, I wouldn't want 100 of them in our cemetery. I don't think that they are as unattractive as some others feel. We've discussed the possibility of perhaps having them in certain areas of the cemetery. And I'm not sure how that would work. I don't understand why everybody's so upset about it. That's all. Because I don't think they're that bad.
All right. Alan, you were one of the.
Well, I wasn't even I wasn't aware of another one of the mausoleum styles. The cemetery cemetery is extremely important to our people. I mean, I understand what your concerns are. Absolutely. And, but the ordinance itself is just so darn outdated in terms of what it allows. And now in terms of grave markers, we have lights. People have lights now that go on at night and twinkle all over the grave sites. We have where they take and make the grave site a garden and they grow things on top of their loved one. And they supposedly take care of it for a while anyways. And we would have, and those things are, we don't have a no to those kinds of things in the ordinance. We have what we state in here that they can do, or what we allow them to do, not in terms of other kinds of things as well. It needs a group of township people who, that, as you've been here all for so long and want to be here, interred here as well. And, so it's just, it needs more tweaking. I mean, and the mausoleum thing here, I don't know how, when I think of moratorium, you have your gravesite, you have things that you want to do, and I would not stop anything. I think I said that, didn't I? People who are here and people need a gravesite, they'd have to be able to have it.
Yeah, but I think what you were saying, if I recall, it was a quick discussion. I think you were stating a moratorium so that we could evaluate what the impact would be if you opened it up one way or kept it closed. And so when you said your little group of citizens, you mentioned that as well. So I think that's.
I don't know how to do a
the
moratorium on a cemetery because, life is not ongoing and so you've got to allow people who pass away to use the cemetery in the ways that it's almost like being grandfathered in a sense,
Alan, moratorium was your word, so I don't know what you were, that's
Well,
why
I think you have
used
to
that.
do, I think if you begin dealing with a redo of the cemetery, you're going to run across the same thing that happened when the planning commission decided to put in a fence ordinance. We had, I don't know how many homes here and there that put the fence to the sky all the way to the lake before the planning commission and the board could approve it. And you're going to have the same thing happen here. Or it could happen in some way. There'll be a few anyways. So I don't know how maybe you don't do a moratorium. Maybe you just get a committee together and you keep it going as it's currently going. It's not awful yet and then come up with a study and as we normally do.
All right,
Was your moratorium on future sales, not on sales that people have already
Correct.
made?
Exactly, that's my thought. And it would basically stop the sales. See, again, you can't, if you don't stop the sales, then you sell something and then someone passes away and they need the spot. So
True.
that's after you've already started it. So you've got to have some flexibility if in doing this, because you want to take care of the people that need it.
Yeah. Which are township people.
all right, Ellen, sure.
Alan, this board, yes, our ordinance is outdated. In fact, it is outdated. When Alan was supervisor, I went through classes and I gave him a revised ordinance that MTA created for me, and it never got completed. And I think we can remember, most of us remember that was on that board at that time. So it sat in Alan, you had it for quite a while. So when you left your supervisor job, I picked it up. I went through some more classes and learned some more. It's a matter of making time out of my daily job duties to take this project up. It's sitting on my desk. I started it. I've got headlines, captions going, but it's not been completed yet. As far as Mr. Hosmer's going, when I look at this White here, Mr. White is living in Florida now. He hasn't been to this cemetery in quite some time. He hasn't taken care of it. He hasn't cleaned it up. He hasn't mowed it, or not mowed it, but kept it up. He used to, originally when his wife first passed away, he was there, but he hasn't been there in a long time. He lives in Florida. I think originally, okay, when Kathy's comment was, well, if we do one, we'll do 100. Well, we don't want to do that either. Then you're taking up unsightly the entire grave,
No,
cemetery type of thing.
don't want 100.
So what my comments to Mr. Gary Mortensen was, when this first came to him, was my comments to him was, this was a big oops in the middle of this brand new cemetery that we plotted out. And we had no idea until it was done and it was there. So I looked at a lot of graves. I've gone to a lot of seminars. I've gone to a lot of classes. And typically these types of things, now they called it a crisp. Now you're calling it something else. So I don't know what,
Crypt.
somebody's calling moratorium or somebody's calling it all these different names. So I don't know what name to even use here. I didn't need Kathy's section number and grave number and all that in the briefing of it. But when I look, these types of things are around fencing around the edges. They're not in the middle of a cemetery plot. And I do believe the Hosmers just did purchase along the fence line upon Gary's, right. According to Gary, that was what he had said, that this is where those types of things. So in the new ordinance that's being worked on now. We can continue to work with Gary. The problems we have is not these. The problems is that we're selling too many graves to too many people outside of the township residents. And we're getting 1 or 2 people as a resident buying 10, 12, 20 graves for all their families all over the country. And so that's what we need to get going on. That's what we need to stop. That is what my issues are. We're selling them to township residents, cheap cemetery lots to people that aren't even anywhere near this Torch Lake Township. So that's what I have problem with. I'm not having problems with this. Although this in the middle of this brand new cemetery when we built it is an eyesore, in my opinion, because you can't see a lot of everything around. So when Gary and I had talked, we talked about all along fence lines. And that's where most of them are, and you see in cemeteries. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to continue. I'm going to get that ordinance done. It's going to go before the board. It's going to go to Gary. It's going to go through everybody, and it's going to be accurate, and it's going to be compared to a lot of the cemeteries that we already have existence in Antrim County, so that when Gary goes to one grave site, he kind of matches what goes on in all the other cemeteries too. So once Gary's passes it down to his son and his grandchildren, there's some consistency there. So come hell or high water, this ordinance is going to get done now.
Well,
Sharon, for a quick, it seems to me that you could come up with a recommendation as early as next month with regard to who is allowed to buy and how many with regard to that.
Not according to when they call and Kathy says, yep, they have a property. We've had one property where they had a teeny tiny
One property
lot
owner.
and they didn't even pay $50 for the year.
Then
And they-
Sharon, take that out of the ordinance that
That's what I'm
says a
saying.
property owner has the right. Why does a property owner have to live here to be able to buy?
But they're
a
buying,
lot.
they're not buying a lot, they're buying 20 lots.
Well, nobody has bought 20
Well,
lots.
they've been buying them in series. I can go back and show you.
You're
series.
exaggerating some of the facts, but
folks,
that's right.
Folks,
That's,
Sharon, Kath, and Al,
I'm fine.
there's 2 things. We have one opinion, so for the next board meeting, if you have the ordinance ready, you can submit the motion. Alan, for the next board meeting, you can, like our process, put forward a motion for something to do, and we'll have it on the meeting, we'll make a decision. But we can talk about this all night, and there's.
Right.
But what
At
I'm
this
saying,
point.
again,
Alan?
your big concern is who's buying them and they're not really, they own property here, but they're not.
And
They
the
live in
thing of it is, when they're buying these lots, there's no names attached to anything. So it's not like going to Johnny or
Sharon,
Susie or
Sharon,
anything. So
and
that's,
Alan?
See, I think you can put a stop to
Alan?
that.
Hang on. You can walk into her office anytime in the next 3 weeks and work this out. We don't need to do it tonight and keep everybody. We got another item
Well,
on
the reason I bring it
business.
up in terms of a short one is that then we can take a longer look at the other issues there.
Alan, that can be all
I
part of the
thought.
plan when you talk to Sharon. That should be a good time.
thank you.
All right. Last item. Kevin, you're back.
Ooh,
Okay, as you see in your packet, I talked to Bob about this unit that's for sale. I've been kind of keeping my eye open for something like this, and the reason I brought this up for consideration and discussion tonight is it is an actual four-wheel drive vehicle, which would be more than adequate for what we need in the wintertime up here. The price is pretty much standard for this type of year vehicle. It is negotiable, and I'm probably going to ask a lower amount because the gentleman said that he could drive this up from Cincinnati here to us if we decide if we want to purchase this item, but it would cost $2,800. So that's why I'm going to try to offer a low bid, maybe around 30, and then see if, with that on there, if they'll take that. The reason I'm suggesting this for consideration for purchase is that we normally, when we do cold water rescue or ice rescue, we have to take the Bravo unit from EMS to change out into the wetsuits to get into the water. And I'd like to get away from that. But having a heated environment, which well lit, offers warmth to the guys who are going into on the ice or into the cold water. And it also helps us in the wintertime if we have a motor vehicle accident. If people get chilled waiting for family people to show up to pick them up, we can also allow them the comfort of the warmth of this vehicle. The other thing is I'd like to maybe in the future, if something like this is purchased, incorporate some hazmat suits for us in our next fiscal year because we do not have any hazmat suits on hand. And we have US 31 here, we have a lot of truck traffic. And at any given time, a tanker could rupture. And I'd like to have more hazmat material on a unit, and this unit would provide that space for us. And most of the firefighters, well, all the firefighters that are certified by the state are at an awareness and operational level in hazmat training. So we would be the first ones that get called in the middle of the night if we have an incident. The other thing with this unit, it allows us to put 6 people in it. And I'd like to reduce the amount of vehicles that go out on motor vehicle traffic accidents during the wintertime. So we can incorporate one engine and this rescue unit to go out on the motor vehicle accident. So that gives us 2 on the highway instead of 5 vehicles. Right now, we take both tankers, the brush truck, and usually 2 engines when we go on a motor vehicle accident. So I'd like to reduce that because we have signs that says accident ahead, but we have no place else to store them except on the tankers. So we got them in there. We could take them out of the tankers, put them in a rescue unit like this, have other things in there that we need. And I think that we could utilize this as a good piece of equipment for the township. And that's why I'm just bringing it up for the board for discussion. I'll try to answer any questions that anybody has about this. So that's kind of my reasoning for this. And I don't think the price is too out of line when I looked at other rescue units that are newer, but we're talking like $197,000.
I don't see a
So-
price on here.
The price didn't print through on our little document.
I don't even
How
see a
much is it?
price.
It's got inventory number, price.
36,000.
Thank you. I
What's the
can
mileage, Kevin?
barely see it, but
What's the mileage on the vehicle?
It's got 135,000, I believe. It's a one owner, and they do have all the maintenance records on this.
What year is it?
It's a 2008.
Now, this vehicle, does it come empty inside? Is there any radios? Is there anything in there?
There's no radios in it, but the sirens and the lights are all included in this.
So the back end is totally empty.
Yes.
There's no
There's
cots,
no
no
cot
nothing
in
in
there,
there.
nothing. It's just it's kind of just an empty.
So what did they
ambulance.
use this vehicle for?
Pardon?
What did they use this vehicle for?
Fire rescue. And they had a cot in there, so apparently they were running EMS plus fire out of their station.
And where would this be housed at?
It's in Cincinnati, Ohio.
No, for
Here.
us.
For us, it would be positioned here at Station 1.
Okay.
In
It's
what
full.
bay?
All the bays are full. Where would that be then?
Not all the bays are full here. We had discussed this, and if we purchase something like this, we're going to put the Bravo unit behind the Alpha unit, so they're both headed out the door, and where the Bravo unit is now, we can back this in. We've got plenty of room back there to move things around.
Okay. So
Bravo
it'll come
and-
out of the one door though, still,
Yeah,
the back
we
door.
would be going out the west door with this unit. So that's what I figured. I wanted it for discussion. I think it would be, like I said, a good purchase for the township. It would be used probably more than we think. And I think it's a good starting point for something.
Use more than you think. So it's not a lot of ice and water rescues.
We
What
have,
oth-
well, water rescue, the motor vehicle accidents, hazmat. I mean, we do have engines that sit here and sometimes they may sit here for a week and they don't get called out, but still we have to have fire.
But you're
engines.
not using this as a backup ambulance type of
No,
scenario?
it will not be for EMS at all.
Okay,
We have EMS personnel. That's where we rely on. We work closely with them. I talked to Mike Bertram about this. He said he thought that it was a good idea. And I discussed with him about it. We would not be doing any EMS calls.
so this
at all.
wouldn't go out every time the ambulance went out? is it
No,
duly?
not, we only go out when they request help.
Okay.
Any other questions for Kevin?
Well, we'd have to have her.
I need to get this in my mind. How does this is a different kind of rescue. No, it's the wrong way to say it. This is a rescue. The EMS is with you anyways. They're going out with you anyways on that
Correct.
call. And where are our medical first responders would be on this? Or are
Yes.
they with the ambulance or both?
No, we have both first responders that go out, and there's some non-first responders, but they are not able to do any medical assistance. That's only done for MFRs. You know, if a paramedic asks them to do something, they're under their supervision at any time on an accident scene.
When do the cross-trained people go out and what do they go out on?
The cross-trained people go out when the ambulance rolls.
And
For the
there
most
are,
part.
what do they use? The truck?
They
pickup
use the
truck?
brush truck.
Okay, okay.
So what would they use? This truck then?
Yes, they could use this truck in the wintertime or any given time. You know,
Is the brush truck 4x4?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I mean, so the cross-train, if they needed to go out for the lift assist and everything, would they be taking a vehicle this big or the brush truck out? Ted or anybody, or depends?
It would depend on the nature of the call, I guess you might say, Sharon. I mean,
Okay.
if it's a major accident, I discussed this, you know, like with Al, and I said that, you know, people would have to watch the monitor in the bay, see who's responding. If you know that these individuals respond to station one, wait till they show up and leave with full crew. Don't take off with a unit with only one person driving, you know, in something like this. And like I said, it gets 6 people in it. So that reduces the amount of vehicles on the roadside. And they do extrication training. So that would go out anytime, you know, so you got the personnel on there. So you only got 2 vehicles out there, but you're going to do extrication on the car. So it eliminates clutter down the highway with vehicles. Because like I said, sometimes we got too much. And in the wintertime, I get a little leery because people do not slow down.
Well, you're
So-
needing traffic control, so would you use this as a traffic control
We
also
could
instead of a
also-
truck?
That's why I would incorporate the signs that says slow traffic accident ahead would be put in on that vehicle and placed out if we have to shut the road down and do detours with it.
We have enough personnel to run these units too then?
Yes,
Kevin, when there's a call, I didn't realize this. They're all saying, I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming. So you know how many are to expect?
yes, we have an active 911 app, which they hit that they're responding. I can look at my phone and I can tell who's responding.
Okay, cool.
And we can tell who's on scene. It also tracks, you know, it can also track the movement of the personnel as they're en route.
Okay,
You know,
Yep.
so it's a nice app.
My take on this is we're expanding the flexibility that the chief has to operate the function of the fire department. It's another vehicle. It's a good sized vehicle. It seems it has multiple purposes. 36,000 against our existing balance in the fire fund of over 400,000. I'm not seeing it being a fiscally irresponsible
Right.
decision.
When I heard the first inclination of a rescue truck, I'm thinking EMS rescue.
Yeah.
That was in my mind, like Central Lake doesn't have an ambulance. They have a rescue truck.
Yeah.
That goes out before the ambulance gets there.
Yes.
Or we have 2 ambulances, so why do we need another ambulance is what rescue in my mind is what this was.
We're not
So
running
this
that.
is a different scenario than what I had portrayed myself looking at here, so.
Yeah. And the reason I selected that type of model is I think it's adequate for what we need. Heavy rescues, we're talking $250,000, $270,000. And I don't think that we actually need something that big.
No,
And they're-
we've got the Antrim big rescue
Yes,
bus
and like I
coming.
said, we're incorporate some of the stuff that we have on the other trucks into this and put everything in one vehicle.
All right, so
Other than a water rescue, where you need a lot of equipment, what do you need at the scene of an accident generally? I know you're all dressed up, you got your uniform or your suits on. What do you need at the accident? Do you get involved in the extrication of the people?
We do the extrication.
So you got that equipment will be on here. And the
We
jaws
can
of life will be on
incorporate
here?
that on there
No.
If we feel the need to do so, yes.
Okay,
That's on the fire trucks, Alan.
Yeah.
that's what I'm getting at.
But we always take a pumper during an accident scene, just in case there's a fire.
So there will be two of them, two
Yes.
units in, this one and something else.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Okay,
all right, folks, I will be putting this on the agenda for September for a motion to purchase this. And unless the board feels that it's reasonable, we could have a special meeting. What's the board's thought on that?
are you
Will
gonna
it-
go look at it? Are you gonna go look at it?
No, I talked to the gentleman who owns it, and that's why I talked about him, and I looked at it, and like I said, it's in very good condition. It was kept inside all the time. It was maintenance all the time. It was just an upgrade, and that's the only reason why they're basically selling it.
Well, Ellen, that was why he mentioned earlier that we have the option to have it driven up and do it a visible inspection. It's down in Fenton, which is what, about 3.5, 4 hours from here.
Well, Fenton's in between company. The actual location
Will they-
is in Cincinnati.
Will they take it to Fenton?
I can call and ask him tomorrow.
What was the $2,800 for? Wasn't that for driving it up?
That was for driving it up, and then he said his airfare good to go home.
That's a
Oh,
delivery.
airfare.
Airfare.
He would deliver.
I
That's
see.
delivery, not the inspection.
I think you ought to look at it somehow. I mean,
So-
take Ted with you.
We bought a fire truck from our neighboring township that didn't last, and it was out the door in a heartbeat.
Do you want to try a special meeting, or do you want to bring it up again at a full meeting? I'll leave it up to the board.
What would be the chance we'll lose the opportunity to buy it?
Yeah, it could be gone by next week. You don't know.
You don't know. I mean, you're going to roll
Yeah.
the dice. If
Right.
you think it's an appropriate item, then I'll set up a
Let's
special
do
meeting.
let's do a special
and-
meeting.
And we can do it, and we can put some conditions and whatever, and we'll write the right motion for it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Kevin.
I might come up with other questions. I can contact you, Kevin.
Okay. All right. We have nothing for informational purposes only. We have citizen comment again. I see no hands, so board comment, Alan?
None?
Sharon?
None?
Kathy?
No,
And I just want to thank the folks that are listening and the township for voting the millage through. I appreciate that. We've got a 10-year plan and we're on our way. So with that, I will make the motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion to adjourn has been seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
I.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone, for coming.